Hi everybody, Bobby Ogilvy, Project Manager and Professional Coach. So today's question, is it really necessary for an organizational leader to be authentic or to be adaptable? Or let's be more specific, how useful are the authentic leadership or adaptive leadership styles? Okay, so back to some of another recent video that deals with integral theory and mentions kind of interior exterior. I would say yes, they are very useful styles. They are still growing in terms of their research impact, as much as their popularity is is larger than formal evidence has yet formally supported. And so here's why I think they're useful. Because of the interior exterior point of it, you can teach someone good processes or good operations, good ways to kind of plan and execute and organize things. But on the interior end of things, you as the individual and the way you're dealing with others becomes very important as a leader. So one, there's an individual quality of you bringing your best and doing well. But two, and this is almost a sheer kind of statistical anomaly, the fact that you come into contact with so many people. You as a leader, you have that one-to-many relationship with lots, right? And so all of your bad stuff, even if you're just a typical human being, is kind of amplified over the number of connections you have, right? So let's say the normal work person has, I don't know, 20 connections. I just made that up. Maybe the average organizational leader has 100 or 200 or 2,000 connections, right? And so even if they have the exact same number of problems, well, now they have so many more interactions and connections to kind of display their bad side, to mishandle things. That's why they need to be so concerned about their shadow, their bad habits, their gap areas, their undeveloped strengths, right? And I that's part of why I think authentic leadership and adaptive leadership are so important. So what is authentic leadership? It's trying to establish trust by being upfront. There's a basic regard for wanting to help people. It's not quite the same as servant leadership, even though I think servant leadership is another useful thing. I don't think it's to say that being authentic will magically fix everything, but I actually see authentic leadership as a great, I'll call it, risk management strategy. So if you think of people are better and better at basically detecting bullshit, as well as we have better mechanisms to spread information, so that when something does come out, all information will eventually come out, or could eventually come out. So this notion that you could somehow conceal or engineer optics, right, is really, or information, is really just an outdated concept. What does that mean for you? That means you as a leader need to be authentic in how you approach things with each person, each decision, all the time. And you're ethically bringing your best to it. You're not trying to deceive, and you're being very upfront about what's going on. Even if it's something negative, you're dealing with things as is. And that level of how important you regard trust and honesty isn't just externally, it's good PR. It's good protection to your audience, to your public. It's particularly good internally because it signals the values of you and your organization. It's also a matter of organizational justice, right? They see that you are embodying things worth embodying, right? People can respect your character as a leader. So a bit crunchier, what is adaptive leadership? So adaptive leadership is late 2000s, let's say around 2010. This stuff is becoming more popular, and it, in a bit more of a crunchier, almost contingency model, is trying to say, listen, there's a lot of things you need to do as a leader to, again, dealing with all this internal stuff, right? It has this great model, this great little rubric, which is like a compass, and it's saying, okay, so what's the north of this compass? It's about navigating decisions. You could frame it as strategy, but really it's about decision making, right? Outer decision making. What's the south? And again, north, south, east, west, right? That would be reversed for you if you guys are, anyway. South is about self-correcting, and so there's a ton of EQ stuff, which would be about this. Now, EQ would also be on the east part of the empathize, so let's hit that as well. Empathizing with others, feeling what people are feeling. But the self-correction path is, I think, one of the most important mechanisms, because it's not just dealing with self-awareness, it's dealing with self-regulation, and then a whole realm of what do you want to value, and again, knowing that founders, leaders, executives are more prone to personality disorders and a bunch of other mental health issues. The self-awareness piece of knowing what their gaps are is really important. I was just watching a talk in the past few hours, and it was dealing with professionals who want to work 80 hours a week and get paid a whole bunch and think that's normal, right? It's like, one, it's not normal. You're more anomalous than you think, and if you can't spot that and you think that everyone should just operate like that, that's a big gap for you, right? And that kind of overworking work-life balance issue is just one aspect of it, but there's lots of other kind of blindness issues that I would say fall into the self-correct. And then just to cover off the last direction, so we have north for navigate, south for self-correct, east for empathize, west is win-win, right? At its most competitive, or particularly in resource-constrained situations, good management or management can seem like you're fighting for resources and it's a win-lose. I get this thing or you get this thing, and we can't both do this. So win-win, it's not just how to efficiently use things, but how to get a bunch of things done at once. You could also think of it as a lot of adaptive leadership is around how healthfully you're relating to others, right? So that's part of the ethic of win-win. People are coming to me with issues or conflicts. I want to be able to make myself and everyone happy at once, and not take this attitude of, I can't wait to compete and beguile and, out Machiavellianly manipulate the situation. And because that's one of the great situations or the great examples of, like, you could, win the battle but lose the war, right? You could get the resource you want, but turn away so many people and show so many of your dark colors that people won't want to work with you, that you've lost trust, that organizationally people don't have faith in you. Actually, back to this term faith, as much as I don't like that term, the way that's framed, adaptive leadership actually tends to have a strong connection around that faith spiritual end of things, because there's a big tone of service, and even parts of the literature I think uses terms like you're trying to avoid seductions or temptations. In that way, one of the things I really like about this is it's saying, listen, as much as you want to empathize with people and have healthy culture, there are seductions like trying to please everyone, right? And so one of the ways that a leader can become seduced is that they stop, if you think of all these different functions, they stop, trying to strategize and create good decisions, generate competitive advantage, because they might fall into maybe a risk-averse, people-oriented trap of people-pleasing, right? Or lots of different traps, right? There are different. And it's not just some outer opportunity. It's almost like of all these functions, one becomes overused, overdeveloped for the sake of not using others, right? Let's see if we can find a list of some of these other kind of gap issues, right? There's trying to people, chronically in a perfectionist way, people please. It's thinking that I guess perfectionism is another one, thinking that you can't make a mistake. There's all kinds of different things here. So let's go back to the root of this. Is adaptive leadership useful? Yes, particularly because it's asking you to think about how you're navigating these decisions and how well you're embodying that type of leader who can be personally self-aware, who can understand problems, who can deal with strategy at once. Authentic, I think, is a bit more about embodying a good leader, but I think is a bit less crunchy in terms of prescriptions and contingencies. In this situation do that, or here are the types of forces. But anyway, I think you'll hear more of these in the future, particularly when it comes to enlightening leaders and bringing more of these internal qualities into it. Again, which I've said in other videos, the relatively easy stuff, still important, but easy stuff is the operations, the processes, that external end of things, right? It's the internal end of things, all the EQ stuff, all the culture, all the how much self-awareness you can display, how much empathy you can summon in terms of others, and create good team dynamics, good culture. This is the really harder work of leaders, right? And more importantly, if they don't do this, and beyond saying if they don't do this well, if they're not aware of this, they will find themselves constantly hitting walls because they're getting in their own way. They're trying. I don't understand. I've made the decision. I've set forth the strategy. I'm trying to execute the thing, and it doesn't go. It doesn't implement. Right? It's all this interior stuff which is a big factor in that. So again, the 6 seconds model and how they define trust, it is really this important mediator variable, which is very strongly determining to what degree you can get the caliber of results that you want, right? So if you're not thinking about things like adaptive leadership and authentic leadership, about how you as a leader show up, and what the gap areas you may be blind to or overly obsessed with, right? Then yeah, you're failing. You're not up to snuff in that internal end of things, that interior end of things. So, as a leader, I would go take a quick look at these. I really like that little compass diagram, right? It's a really quick, clever way of helping you think about what you should be mindful of, and hopefully, you being authentic as a leader means not just you yourself can be authentic, but your whole organization can embody authenticity as a value. Again, people can detect BS better than ever, so wouldn't it be great to be proud of your organization and the people and how you operate and what you do, as opposed to thinking you can, manipulate information, right? That's just an insane way of thinking. So hopefully you guys learned something around leadership and how you do need to work on your internal qualities, and authentic and adaptive leadership might point you in the right direction for some of this stuff. I'm Bobby Ogilvy, Project Manager and Professional Coach.